Okay, so have you ever felt like your brain is just, I don't know, a browser with way too many tabs open? You're just constantly bombarded, right?
Mhm.
Notifications, emails, everything.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of being overwhelmed.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like really concentrating is getting harder and harder in this like nonstop world. Trying to hold on to focus sometimes feels like, well, trying to grasp water.
It really can. Slippery stuff.
Okay, let's unpack this because today we are doing a deep dive into mastering your focus.
And what's fascinating here, I think, is that while that struggle feels totally universal, focus isn't some, fixed trait we're just stuck with.
Right, it's not like eye color.
Exactly. This deep dive is really about understanding focus from a cutting-edge neuroscientific angle. We want to strip away the myths and give you genuinely actionable, expert-backed strategies.
Mhm.
Stuff that can boost your focus, not just, for an hour, but really for the long haul.
That's a really powerful way to look at it. So, our mission today is to pull out the absolute most important nuggets of knowledge from current brain science research to help you listening achieve that lasting, enhanced focus. So, where do we start? Let's pull back the curtain on what's actually happening inside your head when you try to focus.
Well, a lot of people, and honestly, I used to think this too, believe focus was just sheer willpower.
Mm.
Grit your teeth and push through.
Yeah, just try harder.
Right. But it's actually much more complex. It's governed by this really sophisticated network of brain areas all working together.
So when we talk about this control center in the brain, what's something that might surprise people about how it actually, well, keeps us on track? Is it just about mental effort?
It's definitely more nuanced than just effort. Think of it like an orchestra. At the top, you've got your prefrontal cortex. That's kind of the CEO, right?
Mhm.
It directs attention, makes decisions, sets goals.
Okay, the big boss.
Then there's the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC. Think of that as your brain's internal monitor, or maybe like a bouncer. It keeps an eye on your focus and flags distractions trying to sneak in.
Ah, the watchdog. Got it.
And finally, there's the locus coeruleus. This little area is super important. It regulates norepinephrine, which is like your brain's natural alertness chemical, kind of like internal coffee. So optimal focus happens when all these parts are working together smoothly, in sync.
Okay, so it's a team effort, but it sounds like there are plenty of things in modern life that can mess up that teamwork, throw that balance off. I mean, I've definitely felt that. What are some of the big culprits?
Oh, definitely. You've hit a key point. Things like chronic stress, that constant pressure, or trying to multitask all the time, which we all do.
Guilty.
Yeah, us too. Not getting enough sleep, that's a huge one. Or even just not having a clear sense of purpose for what you're doing. All these things can seriously disrupt that harmony. They basically jam the signals between those key brain regions, and that leads to that feeling of, brain fog or just being scattered.
Okay, so if those things can throw our brain's focus system off track, the really hopeful part, I guess, is that we're not just stuck, right? We can actually train these areas, like building a mental muscle.
Precisely. That's the empowering news. Focus is absolutely trainable, just like you'd train your biceps at the gym. And one of the most rigorously studied and effective ways to do this is mindfulness meditation.
Now, some people hear mindfulness and think it's just about like emptying your mind or zoning out, but what's the actual power in just focusing on your breath, especially from a brain science view? Is it really about the act of noticing you drifted and coming back?
That's a great question, and yes, that's exactly it. The real magic isn't achieving some perfectly blank mind state, which, let's be honest, is pretty much impossible anyway.
Right, my mind never stops.
Nobody's does. The power lies in the process of noticing, okay, my mind wandered off, and then gently, without beating yourself up about it, bring your attention back to your breath or whatever your anchor is. That simple act, repeated over and over, literally strengthens the neural pathways in your prefrontal cortex and your ACC. It actually increases the gray matter density there. You're building brain power with every single redirection.
Wow, so each time you notice and gently return, it's like doing a rep for your focus muscle. That's incredible. How long should someone aim to practice this daily to actually start seeing those changes in the brain?
Well, the research, including some really compelling studies from places like Harvard and Stanford, suggests that consistency is key. Even just 10 to 20 minutes a day practiced regularly can lead to significant measurable benefits in attention and emotional regulation.
Okay, 10 to 20 minutes, that feels doable. Another technique people talk about a lot, especially for productivity, is the Pomodoro technique. I have to admit, before I started using it, my workdays felt like this constant battle against distraction. What's the secret sauce behind working in those focused bursts?
The Pomodoro technique is beautifully simple but effective. You work in these focused 25-minute blocks and take a short 5-minute break. After maybe 4 of those cycles, you take a longer break, say 15 to 30 minutes.
Right.
The genius, as you put it, isn't just the time blocking. It's how it works with your brain chemistry. Those short breaks help reset your dopamine levels and prevent mental fatigue. It allows you to sustain high-quality focus for longer without burning out. It's almost like you're training your brain to find deep work rewarding by breaking it up.
So it's structured work that actually helps optimize your brain for focus. That makes sense. Now, speaking of sustaining attention, multitasking. We hear it's bad, but it feels so necessary sometimes. What does the hard data actually say about its impact? Is it really that detrimental?
This really does raise an important question about how we structure our work.
Yeah.
Because the data is, well, it's pretty sobering, actually. Studies show multitasking can temporarily lower your effective IQ by up to 10 points.
Wow, 10 points.
Yeah, which is roughly the same impact as pulling an all-nighter. And it slashes your overall productivity by as much as 40%. But maybe even more worrying is the potential long-term effect. Chronic multitasking might actually shrink the gray matter in your anterior cingulate cortex over time. That's the very part of your brain that helps you filter out distractions.
Shrink it. Okay, that really drives home the danger. So for someone who feels completely hooked on juggling tasks, what's like the absolute smallest first step they could take to start breaking that habit without feeling totally lost?
That's a great practical question. A really good first step is just to commit to single tasking for one Pomodoro. Just one. Pick one task, close everything else, silence the phone, and give it 25 minutes of undivided attention. See how it feels. It's about building that single tasking muscle slowly.
One Pomodoro at a time. I like it. Okay, so moving from habits to biochemistry. Let's talk about fuel. What we put into our bodies. How does optimizing our brain chemistry help fuel focus?
Yeah, what you eat plays a massive role. Certain foods are literal brain boosters. Take omega-3 fatty acids, for example. You find them in walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds. They're crucial because they actually help build your brain cell membranes and improve signaling between neurons, make communication more efficient.
Better signals, better focus.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Exactly. Then you have your dark leafy greens, spinach, kale, that kind of thing. They're packed with folate and antioxidants, which protect your brain cells from damage.
You guys hear about blueberries. Are they really that good?
They really are. Blueberries are loaded with flavonoids, compounds shown to improve cognitive function, memory, and focus. And if you need a little pick-me-up, green tea is a fantastic choice. It has L-theanine plus some caffeine. That combo gives you alertness without the jitters you might get from coffee, promoting a kind of calm focus.
Okay, so food is foundational. But what about supplements? People often look there for an edge. What's the real story, and what's the big warning label we need to put on this?
Right. Supplements. It is absolutely vital, critical, really, to say up front. Always talk to your doctor before starting any new supplement. Full stop.
Okay, super important caveat.
Definitely. That said, some supplements do have research suggesting they can support focus, often by supporting those key brain chemicals. For instance, L-tyrosine might help maintain dopamine levels, especially when you're stressed. Rhodiola rosea is an adaptogen often used to help reduce mental fatigue and brain fog. And lion's mane mushroom is getting a lot of attention for potentially promoting neurogenesis, the growth of new brain cells, and supporting memory. But again, these aren't magic bullets, and they need a doctor's okay.
So there are potential supports for our brain's natural processes, especially under stress, but definitely need professional guidance. Got it. Now, if there's one single thing that brain scientists seem to agree is the absolute most critical piece for building permanent focus, it's got to be sleep, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Sleep is utterly non-negotiable for cognitive function, especially focus. During deep sleep stages, particularly stage 3 and 4, your brain does crucial maintenance. It clears out metabolic waste, it consolidates memories, it regulates emotions.
Like a nightly deep clean and file organization.
Exactly. And when you consistently skimp on quality sleep, your brain's ability to filter out distractions the next day is significantly hampered. You just can't concentrate as well no matter how hard you try or how much coffee you drink.
It really is the foundation. So for people struggling to get that restorative sleep, maybe staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., what are some actionable tips, especially with all the screens around us?
Okay, number 1, aim for consistency. Try to get 7 to 9 hours every night and create what some call a digital sunset. Avoid screens, phones, tablets, TVs for at least an hour before bed.
Yeah.
That blue light they emit really messes with your melatonin production, the hormone that tells your body it's time to sleep.
Digital sunset. I like that.
Also, try to stick to a regular sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up around the same time each day, yes, even on weekends, as much as possible. That helps regulate your body's internal clock, your circadian rhythm. And if you need help winding down, consider things like magnesium supplements again. Check with your doctor, or maybe some calming chamomile tea.
It's amazing how these basic biological needs directly impact such a high-level function like focus. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about dopamine and our reward system. It feels like modern life, with all its constant stimuli, is kind of hijacking our attention. How do we start to, rewire that?
That's a huge piece of the puzzle. We live in an environment of constant high dopamine stimuli. Endless scrolling, addictive games, instant gratification everywhere. This can genuinely hijack our brain's natural focus circuits. We get trained to expect quick hits, making it harder to engage in deep, sustained effort, which is naturally lower dopamine. This is where the idea of a dopamine detox or dopamine fasting comes in.
Right. I've heard that term dopamine fast. What does that actually look like? Is it just about avoiding fun things? How does it help the brain reset?
It's not about permanent deprivation, more like hitting a reset button temporarily.
Hmm.
For maybe a day or even just an afternoon, you intentionally step away from those high stimulation activities, social media, constant entertainment, maybe even junk food and sugary stuff.
Okay.
The goal isn't just to stop doing things, it's to give your brain's dopamine receptors a chance to reset and resensitize. By reducing the constant barrage, you can help your brain start to find more inherent reward and satisfaction in lower dopamine activities again, like reading, deep work, or even just quiet contemplation. It makes those harder tasks feel less like a chore.
Ah, so it recalibrates your reward system. That makes a lot of sense. How does this tie into practicing delayed gratification? That feels like such a core skill for, well, everything.
They're very connected. Training your brain to work for reward rather than expecting it instantly is incredibly powerful for building long-term focus circuits. When you exert effort and then get the reward, it strengthens the neural pathways that link sustained attention and hard work with a genuine, earned sense of accomplishment. This isn't just about getting work done either. Delayed gratification is consistently linked to better outcomes in academics, finances, health, pretty much across the board. It builds discipline.
So building focus internally is key, but our surroundings matter too, right? What about creating a physical space that actually supports concentration?
Oh, absolutely. Your brain doesn't exist in a vacuum. It profoundly mirrors its environment. Think about it. A cluttered desk or a messy room. That visual chaos actually creates cognitive load. Your brain is constantly trying to process all that unnecessary stuff in the background.
So decluttering your space literally declutters your mind.
To a significant extent, yes. Simplifying your physical environment reduces that cognitive load and creates a sense of external order that promotes internal calm and focus.
That's fascinating. And what about using visual cues? Can things like sticky notes or vision boards actually help anchor our focus?
They definitely can. Simple tools like sticky notes with your top 1-3 priorities for the day, a vision board reminding you of your bigger goals, or even a chart tracking your progress on a project, these serve as constant, gentle reminders for your brain. They act as external anchors, pulling your attention back to what you decided is important when it inevitably starts to drift.
Okay, visual anchors. And then there's sound. Huge factor. What's the best way to manage the sounds around us for optimal focus?
Sound is tricky because it's very personal,
Mm-hmm.
but generally using things like white noise, pink noise, brown noise, or even instrumental music like lo-fi beats can be very effective. They create a consistent auditory backdrop that masks distracting, unpredictable noises. The crucial piece of advice, though, especially for tasks requiring deep concentration like reading or writing, avoid music with lyrics.
Ah, why no lyrics?
Because lyrics engage the language processing centers of your brain. Your brain tries to follow the words, which directly competes for the same cognitive resources you need for your primary task. It effectively splits your attention, even if you don't consciously realize it.
Okay, no singing along while trying to write that important email. Got it. So, setting up our environment, both inside and out, leads naturally into the idea of daily rituals, doesn't it? Like signaling to your brain, okay, now it's focus time.
Exactly. Rituals and routines are incredibly powerful cues for the brain. They create predictability and signal a shift in state. A really effective daily focus ritual could look something like this. First, wake up, maybe hydrate, but resist grabbing your phone for at least the first 30 minutes. Let your brain wake up gently.
No morning doom scrolling.
Please, no. Then maybe a quick 5-minute blast of cold water on the face, or even a few jumping jacks, something to physically wake you up. Follow that with a glass of water, maybe with a squeeze of lemon or a tiny pinch of salt for electrolytes, surprisingly good for brain hydration and energy. Then, consciously review your top 3 priorities for the day, what absolutely needs to get done, and then launch into your first Pomodoro cycle.
That sounds like a really intentional, powerful way to prime your brain for the day. And the key here, I imagine, is consistency, right? It's not about doing it once.
Consistency is everything. Like any habit formation, you need repetition. Doing this kind of ritual, consistently aiming for somewhere between, say, 21 to 60 days, though it varies, that's often cited as the time frame it takes to really start rewiring these actions into your brain's default mode, that's when it stops feeling like effort and just becomes how you operate.
Okay, so building the habit muscle. Beyond the daily stuff, how do we build more like long-term cognitive resilience? How do we train that selective attention, the ability to really zero in on what matters?
Great question. There are actually specific neuro exercises you can do. Things like dual end-back brain training games have been shown to improve working memory and sustained attention. They're challenging, but effective. Even simpler things like Sudoku or crossword puzzles stimulate the prefrontal cortex, exercising your problem-solving and focus skills. And, kind of counterintuitively in our digital world, make time for reading physical books.
Why physical books specifically?
Because reading a physical book forces a deeper, more linear engagement compared to the skimming and link-clicking we often do online. It trains your brain for sustained, deep focus on a single narrative or line of argument.
That's a really interesting point. What about learning completely new things? Does picking up a new skill help our focus muscles too?
Absolutely. Yeah. Learning something complex and new, whether it's a foreign language, a musical instrument, coding, anything challenging, is one of the best ways to build neuroplasticity. That's your brain's amazing ability to reorganize itself, form new neural connections, and adapt based on experience. The more you challenge your brain in novel ways, the more flexible and robust your attention networks become overall.
And we can't talk about brain health without talking about movement, right? How does physical activity tie into focus? Sometimes it feels like the last thing you want to do and you need to concentrate.
It seems counterintuitive sometimes, but moving your body is fundamental for cognitive function. Exercise increases the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
Yeah.
You can think of BDNF as like miracle grow for your brain cells.
Fertilizer for neurons.
Exactly. It supports the growth of new neurons, strengthens connections between them, and boosts both focus and memory. And the effects can be immediate too. Even just a 20-minute walk can significantly boost your concentration and cognitive performance for the next hour or two. It's both a short-term fix and a long-term investment in your brain.
So many positive things we can do, but it's probably just as important to know what not to do, right? What are some of the absolute biggest focus killers we need to actively avoid?
Oh, definitely. There are habits that actively sabotage all the good work you might be doing. Top of the list. Probably mindlessly scrolling social media first thing in the morning. It just floods your brain with cheap dopamine hits right away, making it harder to focus on real work later.
Sets a bad tone for the day.
Right. Totally. Also, relying heavily on sugary processed foods. Those cause energy spikes and crashes, leading directly to brain fog and difficulty concentrating. Another big one is simply lacking clear goals or purpose for your tasks or your day. If your brain doesn't know what to focus on, it'll focus on everything and nothing. And related to that is just poor time management, constantly reacting to urgent things instead of focusing on important ones.
So avoiding those traps is just as vital as adding the good habits. It's about clearing out the negative as much as building the positive. Okay, so pulling this all together, for you listening, what's the big takeaway? What does this all mean for actually improving focus in our day-to-day lives?
I think if we connect all these threads, the core message is that focus is fundamentally a skill you cultivate, a habit you build. It's not some fixed trait you either have or don't. You're not just a focused person or an unfocused person.
It's something you train.
Exactly. You train for it. You protect it. And the science is pretty clear. Most neuroscientists would agree that if you practice these kinds of strategies consistently, maybe aiming for around 90 days to really solidify things, you can genuinely rewire your brain for better, more sustained concentration throughout your life. It's really a journey of continuous improvement, not a final destination you reach.
This deep dive really shows that focus is profoundly within our control. It's a capacity we can nurture with intention, with consistency. So for you listening right now, maybe just pause and consider this. How might intentionally cultivating your focus, not just to tick off more tasks, but for a deeper, richer engagement with your life? Really noticing the details, how might that change your perception and your daily experience? Maybe just start small. Pick one thing from today, try it out, and just observe. You might be surprised by the impact.